So you chose Sprigatito as your starter Pokemon, but don't know which other Pokemon to add to your party? This video is here to help. Good afternoon, Pokesports, and welcome to a new kind of video that I want to showcase here on the channel, where we look at the Scarlet and Violet Pokedex and see which Pokemon work best in a world where you decide to choose Sprigatito as your starter. The goal of today's video is to essentially build a foundation for your run through all the gyms and the Elite Four in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, while also having a little bit of fun and having a little bit of speculation as well. But of course, with the speculation comes a massive spoiler warning. I unfortunately have to look at leaks in today's video, right? So I'm going to have to look through the decks that we know of, the decks that was leaked, and some typings that maybe you guys don't want to know about when it comes to the gym. Also some typings about the starters. So we got to look into a little bit of leaks here. So of course, all this information might not be accurate, but 95% accuracy is still a lot of accuracy. So let this be your fair warning that there is a spoiler in this video. But of course, before we get started with today's video, we also have to set a couple of ground rules, right? Number one, we will be looking at Pokemon shown in this image. In this image, we have the entire returning Pokedex, which includes, you know, every Pokemon from every generation, up to 95% accuracy of what will be returning. We will also not be looking at any new Pokemon that are introduced, simply because we don't really know their stats yet. We don't know if they're going to be competitively viable. The only few things we know of are their typings, but a lot of these Pokemon have evolutions that weren't revealed yet, that we just simply don't know, so we're not gonna, you know, reference them when it comes to building out our Sprigatito team. Number three, we will also not be considering any Pokemon coming in through home, because we don't know when home is officially gonna drop. It could be the day after the release, could be a year after the release. We don't really know when home is coming to Scarlet and Violet, so we're not gonna look through the home Pokemon. And also, we will not be taking any terrestrialization into account, because every single Pokemon can terrestrialize to any single of the 18 typings. And of course, if I need a water type on my team, I could just take a water type Torkoal and make one. We're not going to be considering that, because that essentially defeats the purpose of today's video. Let's begin the video by looking at all the gyms that we will encounter throughout our journey in Paldea. We have Grass and Bug being the first two kind of starter gyms that branch off of one each other. Followed by that, we also have Electric, Water, Steel, Ice, Ghost, and Psychic. Very interesting mix of gyms, but there is a very clear, you know, typing that is the best for these. It's probably Fire, right? Fuecoco is probably going to be the best starter when it comes to dealing with the gyms, but we're not talking about Fuecoco today. We're talking through Sprigatito. Sprigatito, if we assume Sprigatito is going to be the Grass and Dark Pokemon that, you know, the leakers have already mentioned it is, and, you know, multiple sources have already confirmed, we can see that it does well against, you know, 3 out of the 8 gyms, which isn't bad at all. It probably won't appreciate the Bug or the Ice gym very much, but, you know, we can start by covering those weaknesses a little bit more. The ones that it does really appreciate are like the water gym is going to destroy, the Ghost gym is going to destroy, and the Psychic gym it's going to absolutely obliterate, which is really good. But, you know, those Bug and Ice gyms, the Bug being very early in the game, maybe if you start Sprigatito, you want to go the other direction and not go to the Bug gym right away. But yeah, the Bug gym's going to be rough, and the Ice gym, thankfully the Ice gym's a little bit later, so we won't have to worry about that one for a while. But how do we fix this Bug and Ice weakness? Well, upon first glance, my thoughts go to Fire type and Flying type. Fire type and Flying type. There are certain Pokemon that we know that are Fire type and Flying type. I'm going to go ahead and say Talonflame. Talonflame would be a great addition to the team, simply because it deals with our Bug typing a lot without making our Ice weakness worse. It doesn't eliminate our Ice weakness, but we can find other ways to eliminate our Ice weakness. It's also one of the strongest Fire types that is being added to this generation. Now, there aren't a lot of Fire types that are being added to this generation, especially not before home, right? We're going to get a lot after home, because then we get access to like Hisuian Typhlosion and all those Pokemon, regular Typhlosion even. But as it stands, it's, you know, Talonflame is one of the few Fire types that we were able to get next to like maybe a Pyro or something. But Talonflame has the added benefit of also being very good against the Bug typing, right? There is not a single Bug move that will do any damage to the Talonflame. That also, not to mention, Talonflame has one of the fastest speeds in the game, one of the best abilities when it comes to Gale Wings as well. I think Gale Wings boosted, not boosted, but, you know, Gale Wings boosted priority, I guess is the right thing to say, against the Bugs in the Bug type gym is going to be amazing. And then if you're actually allowed to have a Fletchling before one of the 2 gyms, that's going to be game changing, right? Because you're going to have the 2 options are Bug or Grass. you could defeat them both. It doesn't matter. Now, of course, there is the added problem with us not really knowing when these Pokemon are going to be available in the game, right? Like, I can mention a pseudo legendary that we won't get until post game, simply because I just don't know where we're gonna get certain Pokemon. We don't know where we're gonna get Talonflame. So if you need another option, I think any flying type can kind of fit this role. Now, there are a lot of flying types that got added to this game. Here's just a list of every single type of confirmed returning Pokemon, which means these Pokemon were confirmed in trailers. So there are some Pokemon that I might mention here today that aren't on this list. But, you know, we have other options like Staraptor. We have other options like Wingull, which can be really good, or Wingull's evolution Pelipper. You know, just those kinds of flying type Pokemon. I think ideally you want a flying type Pokemon in this spot. The cool thing about Staraptor is that although it doesn't fix the ice weakness, it does have access to close combat, which is super effective against ice types. And as we can see by this list again, there aren't that many fighting types in this game currently revealed. Having access to close combat can really help with that ice type gym. And on top of that, Staraptor also gets the ability Intimidate, which is, you know, makes it that much more valuable. But now looking at our third Pokemon for the party, we probably want something to deal with this new weakness to electricity that we're kind of gathering if we added Talonflame to it, right? So we want to have the resistance to electric while also trying to still get that resistance to ice. We still don't technically have it because, you know, the flying type and the fire type kind of cancel out. So I think the best option for us is probably going to be a Rotom Wash. Rotom Wash is probably, you know, by being water and electric, can easily deal with ice, can easily deal with ground type moves because you have Levitate, and can easily deal with incoming flying type moves for the Sprigatito. I think honestly, like Rotom Wash, Sprigatito, and Talonflame have one of the best defensive cores in the game. It is kind of a simple grass, water, fire core, but with those added typings, it really does mesh well together. The only real typings that you have to worry about a little bit more are I was going to say fighting type. No, you have Talonflame. Fairy. You have to worry. No, because you have fire. Yeah, wow, this core is busted. Now, of course, Rotom is kind of a special Pokemon, right? We don't really know when we're going to get Rotom in the game. So if you guys need other options, there's a couple of other water type Pokemon that you could look at. I was honestly looking at Vaporeon as a potential option. You might be able to get Gyarados kind of early. You might be able to get Slowbro. I think the best other version of Rotom is probably going to be Gastrodon, though. Gastrodon does a similar thing to Rotom. Does also have that resistance to electricity. Actually, in fact, it's an immunity to electricity, while also eliminating the water type from doing any damage. It's a great switch in for the Talonflame. It's also gonna really tear up that water gym, right? What is the water gym going to do to Gastrodon? If you're able to get Gastrodon early in the game, the water gym is just going to crumble. There is not anything that the water gym can do. You essentially completely neutralize its terastallized Pokemon. Of course, maybe Terastallized is something that also has a grass move, so we have to be a little bit concerned. But if it does, you got to switch in Talonflame, right? The Gastrodon switch in and the Rotom switch in for the Talonflame are just amazing in every regard. The only thing that Gastrodon doesn't have that Rotom does have is Levitate, right? So overall, it's not that bad. Really quick, I'm going to interrupt you and remind you that if you're enjoying the video so far, go ahead, hit the like button, because this is something new that I'm trying. And if this gets enough traction, then I might go ahead and do a Fuecoco video and even a Quaxley video to see what best team they could have in order to rush through the game and, you know, defeat every gym as fast as possible. So far, if we assume the team is Sprigatito, Talonflame, Rotom, Wash, right? Because I know I'm mentioning a lot of other Pokemon, but for now, it's Sprigatito, Talonflame, Rotom, Wash. We already have a type advantage against every single gym in Paldea. That core, those three Pokemon, give us a type advantage for every single gym, right? So if we go back and look at the gyms, so we got things like Water type, which Rotom deals with, and Sprigatito deals with Bug type, Talonflame deals with. We have Steel, Talonflame deals with Ice. Talonflame also deals with really well. Ghost, Psychic, Sprigatito deals with them with the Dark Stab. So we've already dealt with every single gym theoretically. So the goal of the rest of this video has to be, how do we further extend that advantage without giving us more disadvantages, right? So I think the best Pokemon to do that is probably Gengar. Since we have two ways of avoiding ground on the team and a resistance to ghost Pokemon, we can kind of slap on Gengar to the team without paying too much of a price, right? What makes Gengar great is that beating the story in Pokemon, all these NPCs don't have EVs, right? All these NPCs just have the base Pokemon right out the box, fresh and new, never had a battle in its life. So that means that if you have a Gengar with some speed IVs, you have a very fast Pokemon. And the thing with, completing the game, in my opinion, you can kind of go about it two different ways. If you're like a veteran Nuzlocker and your goal is to never die ever, then I guess bulking up and then attacking with recovery moves might be the most safe way to go. But if you're like me and you go monkey mode, you just go max speed, max attack, bang, bang, bang. If it has a status, doesn't matter. The move needs to do damage to be on the slot. That's it. That's a veteran Pokemon player right there. Gengar is a great sweeper to the team to have alongside the Talonflame. Gengar is the special sweeper. Talonflame is the physical sweeper. They kind of fill two similar roles in two different ways, which, makes Gengar that much of a stronger choice for me. Of course, other ghost types, if you are not a fan of Gengar or just don't have access to Gengar in the early game, could be things like Sableye, could be things like Frostlass, like Poltegeist, or even Dragapult. I doubt we'll get Dragapult that early, but the option is there. Now, since our ice weakness is currently patched up a little bit, but not resolved, I think adding another fire type might be the way to go. Typically, you don't want to go with dual typings or having two of the same typings on the same team. But since the ice weakness is so prevalent, I think that the fire typing might be a really good typing to double up on. Now, we are getting introduced a lot of new cool, fancy fire types in this generation, like Armarouge and like Ceruledge. But what better fire type right now in this scenario than Arcanine? The tried and true. Having one of the best stats for a regular middle-of-the-dex Pokemon, Arcanine. It has legendary stats for a middle-of-the-dex Pokemon. And it's one of the few Generation Pokemon that were never, Generation 1 Pokemon that were never affected by the power creep, right? Like, Arcanine can still be played competitively. In a world where Incineroar doesn't exist, Arcanine takes over, right? Arcanine can just sit there, not care, get Intimidate, Snarl, Flamethrower. You can run a physical, you can run a special, you can run a tanky. You can do whatever the heck you want with this Pokemon. It's so slappable onto any team. And from what the recent trailers have shown us, Arcanine is a very early game Pokemon. At least Growlithe is a very early game Pokemon. So, I have no reason not to use Arcanine at this point. You can go ahead and look at all the other fire types on the team in the decks, but I think Arcanine is one of the strongest. Other options, I guess, if you want Flareon, Torkoal, Rotom Heat, but like I said, I don't know how early you get Rotom in the game. Colossal can maybe work for you as well. But I think Arcanine is definitely the way to go here. Arcanine just never disappointed me. And even if you don't want to go Intimidate, you have Flash Fire, which gives you an immunity to fire, which can inevitably help the Sprigatito out tremendously. So Arcanine, definitely probably Sprigatito's best friend. But of course, having two fire types kind of comes with its drawbacks. And one of the fire types that we do have is a flying type. We have to concern ourselves a little bit more with rock type. Now, of course, rock type isn't a gym that we mentioned, but we already do know that there are certain side quests with certain strong Pokemon that are big that are rock type. So thankfully, Sprigatito has a super effective stab against rock type, but another one couldn't hurt. This is why I've decided to add Garchomp as the final Pokemon to round off the competition. Garchomp has one of the best stat distributions in the game, hands down, no matter what, right? It also has one of the best type combinations in the game. Of course, we know that, Terastallize is going to inevitably change that because we can change our Garchomp to whatever the heck we want now. But overall, as it currently stands, Garchomp has one of the best type combinations in the game. And in my opinion, yes, it's super weak to ice, but I think we've effectively dealt with ice enough on this team, right? We have a bunch of fire types and a bunch of Pokemon to really hit the ice types hard. But, we've dealt with ice 100 times over at this point. And this also gives us the ground type. So we could just bust through the electric and steel gyms, which is kind of the gyms we were struggling with. The steel, not so much. The electric one, kind of. We're going to need that ground type in order to bust through it, or else we're going to have a little bit of trouble. But overall, I think Garchomp's a great addition. Of course, Garchomp does seem like kind of a final game Pokemon. So other options for Garchomp, I'd say, would be another ground type. So we're probably looking at the Mudsdale, the Crocodiles, the Nidokings and Queens of the world. I think Nidoking and Nidoqueen are traditionally kind of an early game Pokemon, so that'd be a great option to have in that spot as well. It all depends on how early we get a Moonstone as well. We have no idea how any of this is going to work. But I think overall, as speculation, this is so much fun to do. Just see what Pokemon can really mesh together and essentially build a team with nothing, with the scraps that we have to pick from. So there you have it, the best Pokemon to use if you choose Sprigatito as your starter. Unfortunately, we don't know the areas, like I said before, of any of these Pokemon. This is all just speculation, and preparing for Scarlet and Violet is really exciting. So I'm excited to, share this kind of video for you guys. But of course, friendly reminder that this is all my opinion. Nothing of what I'm saying is the end all be all. is true fact. And of course, also a friendly reminder that this is all determined on leaks, and 95% accuracy on these leaks. It was already admitted by Riddler Q that this is only 95% accurate. So I would love to hear your opinion in the comment section. Of course, which Pokemon would you guys run for your Sprigatito in Scarlet and Violet? Thank you guys so much for watching. This video has been a blast to make, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Of course, you guys don't know, I'm Kevin. This is Pokesports. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great night, and peace out. Bye-bye.